Hey there! Welcome to Retro Reloaded. I'm your host Lance, and each week I tackle a retro game shaped by your picks. If you want a chance to choose next week's game or unlock exclusive bonus episodes and polls, join me on Patreon at patreon.com/retroreloaded. There's even a free tier to dip your toes in. Big thanks for all of your love and support. It means the world to me. Now let's hit the start button and reload those retro vibes. Released in 1997 for the Nintendo 64 and known as Lylat Wards and PAL regions, Star Fox 64 was developed and published by Nintendo as the second entry and a reboot of the Star Fox series. It was the first N64 game to bundle support for the Rumble Pack, drawing on unused concepts from the cancelled Star Fox 2, its branching level system, all-range combat arenas, and 4-player split-screen multiplayer all debuted here. By combining tight analog controls, extensive voice clips, and multiple routes throughout the Lylat system, it sold over 4 million copies and remains the best-selling entry in the series. As far as the plot goes, you pilot Fox McCloud's Arwing through a sequence of on-rails corridor stages and open all-range arenas to defend the Lylat system from the mad scientist Andross. After retracing his father's doomed mission on Corneria and regrouping with wingmates Peppy, Falco, and Slippy, Fox forges alternate paths uncovered by specific mission objectives toward Venom. Alright guys, with all that out of the way, here's my guest, SummerSetBanjo. Welcome to the podcast, man.
Hey, thanks. I'm really glad to be here. I really appreciate you inviting me onto this show. Hello everyone, I am SummerSetBanjo. I've been a lifelong fan of Star Fox franchise. I started with Star Fox 64 and kind of been following the franchise ever since.
Okay, so you started off with Star Fox 64. How old were you around that time?
I was about 4 years old when I experienced Star Fox 64. My circumstances was kind of amusing. At the time, there was a store chain called Hastings, and the big box store. They sold like books, records, video games, lots and lots of movies and stuff. Well, back in the 90s, video game rental was really huge. Well, so was game system rental. And so given I was 4, I don't have the best of memories of the time. It's all kind of hazy, but basically I didn't exactly have any games or real game systems, but I would like rent like both a console and a game from Hastings and have it like for like over the weekend or a few days.
Right.
And one of the games, I think like one of the very first games I ever played was Star Fox 64. And I had rented it a few times to the point where my father actually bought me the game, but I still didn't have the game console. So I would actually have the Star Fox 64 game, but no console to play it on unless I rented the console. Funny enough, I remember there was a time where I had a PlayStation 1, but no games for it, and I had a Star Fox 64, but no system for it.
Okay, nice.
But yeah, eventually I did actually get my own 64 console, and I got more games for it too. And so, Star Fox 64 was one of the first games I owned.
Wow. So you basically had to like rent these consoles, because I never rented a console before. That's actually something new to me. I had no idea you could rent the consoles, but I do remember constantly going to Hollywood Video. I don't know if you remember this chain, but it was called Hollywood Video. And I was a little bit old. I think I'm a little bit older than you, because I think I was like 6 or 7 when Star Fox came out. Not much though. And so I would go to these stores, I would rent these games. I actually didn't end up renting Star Fox 64. I got it for Christmas when I was younger, along with my Nintendo 64. Was it a release title for the N64? Do you know?
I don't believe it was. I would have to check to see what the release date on the American Nintendo 64 was, but I know that Star Fox 64 was in 97. So I believe the N64, I think, came out in 96.
Okay, so yeah, it was pretty
Yes.
close then.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's pretty close. Yeah, I got Star Fox 64 like shortly after I got the N64, and man, I was just amazed by this game when it first came out. I was just like, it was so much fun, flying in the Arwing and like shooting these things down and the different battles and different planets. We'll go all into all this stuff, but there was so
Yeah.
I was just wowed by this game.
Hmm.
And I'm not gonna spoil it because I do rate the game at the end of the podcast, but I did have a similar experience over this week playing it on stream, and it was just
Hmm.
amazing, man. Yeah, so you had to rent the console, you had to rent the Star Fox 64. Did you what happened after that? Did you get other Star Fox titles, or how did you proceed in the Star Fox series after that?
Well, so for the longest time, all I had was Star Fox 64. Because, well, first of all, since it was one of the first games I had and I was so young, the game was quite a bit of a challenge for me. So for like the longest time, I could only get so far as the snow planet level. Fortuna, of course, it was actually supposed to be called Fortuna, and because I could never beat Star Wolf. And of course, as time went on, I got better and better at the game, especially as I got older, and I got pretty good at the easy route, but I could never really figure out the prerequisites to get to like the other routes. But in terms of like my interactions with the franchise with Star Fox, for the longest time, all I had was Star Fox 64. When the Nintendo GameCube first came out, I actually played at Kmart. They had this big, huge demo kiosk of Star Fox Adventures. And I was, of course, really into Star Fox at this point, and so I was really excited to see that. And so that was like one of the first GameCube demos I had ever played. And I I didn't really like Star Fox Adventures when it came out. It because the demo starts off with the major new character in that game, Crystal, and they're all speaking in this alien language. And of course, there's dinosaurs, there's a flying ship galleon and stuff. And I was like, and I was like 6 or 7 at the time, and I was like really confused as to like where's the spaceships, where's Fox and stuff. And of
Right.
course, they also had like an actual like Arwing level in that demo as well, but it was like so short. You know how like the gummy ship levels are like in Kingdom Hearts. That
Yeah.
was about that
Yep.
was about basically the length of what this Arwing level was like in the Star Fox Adventure demo. So I don't know. It just wasn't the Star Fox game I was looking for at that particular age. So I kind of skipped Star Fox Adventures. And of course, I did get a GameCube not too long afterwards. But then the next game that came out, Star Fox Assault, that was one I actually rented like several times. I beat it. It was fun, but I found that one to be rather dark and intense
Okay.
uh, for what I was kind of expecting it to be. Um, but it's a really good game, and I've grown to really like Assault as time has gone on. But so I played that. I never had a DS, so I never actually played Command when it came out. And I didn't have a Wii U either, so I didn't really get a chance to play Star Fox Zero when that came out. But then when the Switch came out, I got like really excited for Starlink Battle for Atlas because it had the Star Fox content for it, and I had an absolute blast with Starlink Battle for Atlas and its Star Fox content. It kind of basically re-energized me as a fan of the franchise. And soon afterwards, I basically went back and bought all those prior Star Fox games that back when I was a kid and a teen, I didn't have the consoles for. So I ended up like getting Command on the Wii U shop channel. I bought both Star Fox Adventures and Assault on the GameCube since I had only ever rented Assault. I didn't actually own it. And I also bought the Super Nintendo cartridge of the original Star Fox game, and I even bought a repo cart of Star Fox 2.
Okay.
And so I have kept up with the franchise, but there was long periods of time in my childhood and teenage years where I was always a fan of the franchise, but didn't always had access to it. But now I've been catching up for all that lost time in recent years.
Okay. So yeah, I basically didn't. I was kind of like you, where I had a big gap in when I played last played Star Fox. Not as big as you. I mean, sorry, not as small of a gap as you. It was a much bigger gap where I hadn't played Star Fox 64 since I was like, I think I was like 10 or 11. Okay, so it's been like 24 years roughly. So coming back to it was kind of like a big nostalgia blast for me. I meant to ask you, what about the 3DS version? Is that a lot different than the 64 version?
There is quite a bit different. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's still kind of the same game, but there's quite a few differences to it. First of all, the graphics have been completely overhauled, and so everything kind of has like shiny new textures. All the models are brand new and much higher quality. And also, the entire game has been redubbed and basically rescripted. So it's pretty close to a new translation and a new voice cast. I kind of like the old voices a little bit more, but that's just me. The multiplayer was completely overhauled. It's basically a brand new multiplayer mode, new maps. None of the old maps from the original version are back, but they made like a whole set of brand new maps from the ground up, and they're pretty interesting, but kind of overlooked. And they polished some of the gameplay. Some things are easier, some things are harder, and they also added basically the ability to save at any point, and also a level select function.
Wow, that's actually kind of cool. I think so. It sounds like there are some good things about the 3DS remake. I don't know about the voice lines. I think I like the original voice actors and voice lines, but maybe because they're so iconic, and that's something I was going to mention, is that these voice lines are like something that everyone seems to remember. Like everybody
Yes.
has a voice line from Star Fox that they remember, especially Do a Barrel Roll. Do a Barrel Roll is
Oh
like
yeah.
that's the one that even if you don't play Star Fox, you know what Do a Barrel Roll is. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I don't think I'm ever going to like forget like Slippy and Falco's voices. I there's like all the voice lines and stuff are so iconic. Like for example, sometimes like me and my father will actually like quote Star Fox to each other as an in joke.
Yeah.
For example, like we quote like the train boss from Macbeth pretty often.
Oh, what does he say?
Well, like one of the things that he says, like when you first start that level, is the train conductor boss says, "Here comes those little hyenas right now," and then later on when he unleashes the boss, that kite thing that's attached to the back of the train engine, he also says, "You're very lucky."
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, it seems like everybody has these lines. One of the lines I always remembered, but I kind of paraphrase it all the time because I don't remember it line for line, but it's Falco when he's just like, "Oh, I've been saved by Fox again. How swell," something like that. He always says, and I just remember him just being such a jerk. Like,
Oh, he is. That's funny. It's like as much as I liked the game, I when I was like a kid, I didn't really always like the character so much. I found Slippy to be pretty whiny and Falco to be such an ungrateful jerk.
yeah, I think everyone kind of has that same experience because everyone seems to be like, dude, Falco's like this ungrateful, teammate that always needs your help, but when you do help him, he's like, "Get him off of me," and then you do, and he's like, "Okay, wow, thanks again." Like you're like, dude, you were just yelling for my help,
Yeah.
and then Slippy, who like is just she's crying all the time. It's not a she. I call it a she because it sounds like a she. I think it's voiced.
You're not the only one. I was convinced when I was a little kid, I was convinced Slippy was a girl, even though they obviously referred to him as a guy throughout the game. But I was so convinced that Slippy was a girl that when I played Star Fox Assault, I was like totally shocked because you see in Assault they give Slippy kind of more of a deeper frog-like voice, and I was like, Slippy's a guy?
That's me too. I actually had to read, like, I was reading it, maybe it was on Reddit or somewhere, and it was like, yeah, everyone was referring to Slippy as he, and I was like, wait, what? Like, that's a dude? I thought it was a female. It must be voiced by a girl. I think it must be voiced by some sort of woman. Because she sounds kind of like an anime like character in a way. Like, oh, she has that high pitched like anime type voice. And yeah, going back to Falco being ungrateful, there was this moment, and I actually posted a little short on it, where in the beginning Fox goes, check your G diffuser system, like in the beginning. And Falco's like, I'm fine, whatever. And then like you're on Corneria, like the first level, and you are like halfway, you're halfway through the level or whatever. And he's like, oh, my G diffuser's messed up. Something's wrong with it. It's like, I'm like, you didn't check it, dude? Like, you were like, oh, I'm good, man. Like, don't even worry about me. Oh my gosh.
One thing is funny is in the earlier script draft that was found in the Nintendo GigaLeaks, that whole G diffuser thing was even all the way back there. But in that earlier script draft, Falco basically says to Fox that there was like a warning light on the G diffuser, but it's gone now, so everything's fine.
Oh, okay. So that makes a lot more sense instead of like, I'm fine. Like, leave me alone. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
That makes way more sense if he's like, oh yeah, there was a red light, we're good, but he just kind of overlooked it. Now, because now he just seems like incompetent at, like, you're like, okay, dude. Yeah. So go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was
just going to say it's kind of interesting how things in the script kind of changes from draft to draft. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'll add on to your point there. I think, because a lot of these games were originally released in Japan, I think Star Fox was too, right? That sometimes you'll get like the translations kind of weird, especially back then. Translations were a little bit finicky, and you would get like a weird translation sometimes, and they would have to fit it into like, because sometimes a sentence can be longer or shorter in Japanese, I'm assuming. And then so you kind of have to fit it into this like dialogue that makes sense for English. So the mouth movements and everything. So I get why some of these things don't make sense sometimes.
Oh, indeed. And I actually kind of plan on trying to get into that topic about translation differences later on in the podcast, if you'd like.
Absolutely.
But yeah, try to remember to hit on that point in a little bit. But yeah, and of course, one of the other things that's interesting is with each game, it's not always the same translators either, or even the same translation teams or companies that are involved in bringing these games over.
Yeah. It's sometimes, you'll have, I guess, maybe different employees or workers that I don't know. That probably does make a difference though, when it comes to like having a different team each time. I was going to go into the interesting fact that this was the first game to support the Rumble Pack. Like that was like a big thing.
Yes. Yeah, that was a very big deal. In fact, I think one of the more infamous commercials or trailers for Star Fox 64, where it's like a Sega and Sony employee kidnaps a Nintendo employee. The whole big centerpiece in that commercial wasn't really so much Star Fox 64, but the Rumble Pack that was going to come included with it. And now, we might not think too much about it these days, but that was kind of a bit of a game changer because not only did the Rumble Pack do pretty well for Star Fox 64 and other Nintendo 64 games compatible with it, but it was apparently popular enough that later revisions of the original PS1 DualShock controller eventually started including Rumble built into their controllers. Actually, my PlayStation 1 is like one of the first versions of the PlayStation 1. So my old PS1 controller doesn't have the rumble in it, and it doesn't even have the little joysticks for it either.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow. Did you get to experience I'm sorry if you mentioned this, but did you get to experience Star Fox with the Rumble Pack originally?
No, no, I have never actually experienced Star Fox 64 Rumble Pack because my father actually bought the rental copy of Star Fox 64 from Hastings. And since it was a rental copy, it came with the manual, it came with the box, but no Rumble Pack. And I've never actually bothered to buy a Rumble Pack for the 64. So I've never actually experienced Rumble for any of the 64 games.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I remember I think I got the Rumble Pack when I first got the game. And it was like really interesting because I think it was the first time I actually experienced Rumble. I think it was even before I experienced Rumble on the PlayStation. And I was like, whoa, like this is like I'm getting shot at, like I can feel people shooting at me. You'd get hit and it'd go brrr. Like it was pretty cool. And I think it rumbled when you shot like the bombs and stuff, and you're like, whoa. Now it's just standard. Everybody has the rumble or whatever in their controller, so everybody's used to it. But back then, that was kind of state of the art. That was like a new thing.
Yeah.
And so it was pretty interesting. Yeah. So also, you know what? I didn't know this. This is something I learned this week. Is that with the multiplayer, you can let's actually talk about the multiplayer a little bit. I played multiplayer with my friend next door. He had the game and we all played together, and I had a brother who was like a year and a half younger than me, and then we'd invite another neighbor kid. So we did a lot of multiplayer on this game, and it was a lot of fun. My neighbor was actually pretty good at the game, so I think he won most of the battles. But I knew you could get the tanks unlocked. But one thing I did not know until this week is that you can unlock like being on foot. Like I had no idea.
Well, there's a bit of funny history with that. Okay, so I'll go ahead and touch on it a bit now. But you see, back when Star Fox 64 was in development, they had a lot of plans for Star Fox 64, and one of the things that they wanted to do was to expand on the types of gameplay that you could have. Now, Star Fox 2, which I don't believe you have played yet, one of the things that was kind of a big deal in Star Fox 2 was the fact that your Arwing would transform into a walker, like an actual like walking like mech kind of thing that could walk across the ground, and you could like switch back and forth at any point in the game, and of course that was some real cutting edge stuff for Super Nintendo hardware. But of course, unfortunately, Star Fox 2 got canceled, and we can maybe get into a little bit about why and how that happened in a little bit, because it does kind of relate into Star Fox 64. But when Star Fox 64 was in development, Miyamoto had requested the Star Fox 64 team to please include that walker mode from Star Fox 2 into the game. Well, the development team of Star Fox 64 was not really the same development team that was working on Star Fox 2. It was kind of different sets of people and stuff. And the Star Fox 64 development team really did not like the walker mode for whatever reason. But they knew that Miyamoto had requested it. Miyamoto, even back then, was a pretty big deal. So not really somebody you could really say no to. So basically what they came up with was an alternative idea to pitch to Miyamoto of like, we don't want to do the walker for reasons X, Y, and Z, but how about we have this instead? And so they pitched the Landmaster, which is the tank, and on-foot missions.
Whoa.
And
okay,
yeah, they pitched that we will have levels in the game where Fox will get out of the Arwing and travel through like tight corridors and stuff and shoot at ground troops, or like take on like a boss or something, and he'd be like armed with both like a blaster and a bazooka. And Miyamoto gave approval to both of those ideas. And unfortunately, as development went, they eventually had to cut the ground mission concept And they also cut the levels that they had planned on including that gameplay format on. But they still really wanted to include on foot to some capacity. So they decided to include it as a unlockable bonus for multiplayer.
Oh, okay, wow. I had no idea they had plans to do on foot in this game. And I'm guessing the reason that they went so hard on Star Fox Adventures being an on foot game is because they weren't able to like implement it in this game like they wanted, maybe. Um,
Yes, exactly. And I'll actually, when we kind of wrap up talking about Star Fox 64, I was kind of hoping I can talk a little bit about basically what happened after Star Fox 64 and how it led to both the development of Adventures, Assault, and Command, because all three of those games are kind of related to basically what happened with the development of 64 and the immediate aftermath of that.
yeah. I feel like the development process for these like N64 games were pretty complicated, especially for Nintendo. I mean,
Oh yeah.
they were coming out with hit after hit after hit during this time. I mean, we're talking about Mario 64, we're talking about Star
Mhm.
Fox 64, we're talking about Ocarina of Time. You know,
Yeah.
they were just blasting these out, and I mean, they were
Oh
doing big
yeah.
things. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
each of
the 64 is one of those consoles that may not have had quantity, but it's almost all quality.
yeah, aside from those like sports games, I would say I hate those sports games. I mean,
Well, I've never been a fan of the sports games.
yeah, I feel like sports games, and sorry guys to those who like sports games, but I have never. I feel like they're always those cheap games to make. You know, they're like, okay, this is really easy. We just do the same thing every year. It's the same game. We add a couple of extra things, and it's like, people can say the same for Call of Duty and stuff, but I mean, sports
Mhm.
games are like infamous for that.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it was bad then, but it's absolutely worse now. I mean, back then, at least you would have technological advances that would allow them to do new and additional things.
Right.
But now that we reach the point of where we pretty much advance games is pretty much almost as far as we can in terms of like graphics and capabilities, they're just kind of, you know, in limbo. There's no real reason to keep buying those games. And if you go to any retro game store, I can guarantee you they're going to have at least two or three shelves full of nothing but old sports games.
Yeah, totally. I mean, a few people, let's say a few people, not nobody, a few people
Mhm.
do like those games. A few people do collect those games, but most people were just kind of like, because you're playing the same thing. I had fun with a couple of the baseball games, but I didn't
Mhm.
like, I didn't go out of my way. I wasn't like, let's go get this MLB game, or this NFL
Yeah.
game. I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
have it. I guess I'll play it.
Yeah, I
So.
mean, it's like, I have, of course, a few sports games myself. I mean, generally, what I do is I'll try to get like one sports game per console, like one baseball game, one football game, one soccer game, stuff like that, because really, that's all you really need for that console generation. I mean, to be perfectly honest, at least for me. But even then, I try to generally gravitate towards the more arcadey ones. Like, if it's a choice between like Madden or like NFL Blitz, I'm gonna go with NFL Blitz.
Blitz, yeah, all the way. Me too, because it's like a new thing. They actually Blitz. They did something else. But yeah, anyways, we'll get back on track for people for Star Fox. But yeah,
Oh, of course.
the sports game suck.
Maybe if you ever do like an NFL Blitz podcast, you can have me back or something.
Yeah. I'm sure I will. I'm sure there's gonna be somebody who's like, yeah, do NFL Blitz. So let me go into maybe some of the good. I just for clarification for the viewers. I replayed Star Fox this week for the first time in 24 years, and I streamed it and everything, and so I kind of re-experienced the game. So I got to experience some good about the game, some bad about the game. I got to, I noticed certain things, so I'm going to go over some of those points. Um, the first thing, and is the really good that I noticed right off the bat is the music. I loved the music in this game. It gave me so much nostalgia. I think it's simple, but it's effective. It was like beautiful for each level and each introduction and each scene. I mean, how do you feel about the music in this game?
I really like the music of Star Fox 64. Of course, given that it was one of the first games I ever played, it was my first experience with a game soundtrack, but I always liked Koji Kondo's. Or, I'm sorry, I'm going to be really bad with Japanese names in this
Oh,
podcast.
no worries.
Just apologies in advance.
Most people will.
But
So.
Koji Kondo, I thought he really kind of peaked with his like music during this period. With like his work on Mario 64, Star Fox 64, Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask. I really like Star Fox 64's soundtrack, and I think the three best tracks in this game is the Zonus track, the credits theme, and the boss battle music, Boss B, which is what you hear for like for half like the bosses in the game.
Okay, yeah. I do remember the credits music. That music gives me so much nostalgia. I think that was the point. Like when I beat that game, I think and I beat the game a few different ways. I think 2 different ways this time around. It just gave me so much nostalgia. It blew like I was just like, wow, man. I remember like just feeling like overwhelmed with joy and like sad. It gives you like this mix of emotions, when you're listening to that in-game music in the credits.
Yeah,
it's just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the part that I experienced the most nostalgia. Ironically, it was the ending credits I experienced the most nostalgia. And then, so you're telling me that the guy who did this music for Star Fox 64 did Ocarina of Time and Mario 64 too?
Yes. He basically did all 3 of those soundtracks practically back to back. I mean, it was like as soon as he was done with Mario 64 soundtrack, he immediately started work on Star Fox 64. And then like as soon as 64 wrapped up, I believe the next game he worked on was Ocarina of Time soundtrack.
That's amazing. This guy was killing it at that time too. Man, they had some all-stars on this Nintendo team at that time. That's incredible.
Oh, yes. And I believe Koji Kondo still works at Nintendo. I don't know if he still like directly makes the soundtracks anymore, but he's basically the head of like their entire music department. So he basically oversees like the development of soundtracks for most of their games in general. It's usually like people that are working underneath him that make the soundtracks now. But yeah, I mean he is a great composer.
Yeah, he's incredible if he's done all those soundtracks. Everyone remember, I can think, like, if I just go back in my head, I can literally think of a soundtrack for each of those games, like, right off the top of my head. Like, it's amazing. Like, the Ocarina intro soundtrack, the Mario 64, the I can't do it anyways. But, yeah, there's, like, a big soundtrack in there that's, like, super popular. Yeah, so this guy was an all-star. He's like Nobuo Uematsu from Final Fantasy. That guy's amazing, too.
Oh, yeah.
I mentioned him, I think, on a previous podcast. That guy is just incredible. But yeah, another good point that I actually had, and this one surprised me a little bit. A good point that I had was the graphics. I actually think the graphics like held up. I thought like
I agree.
In my head, I was like, oh, this is going to be like weird polygons and it's going to look really bad and it's not going to be any good. No, it was actually decent. Like I was like, this works. This is kind of a nice art style that they went with for this game.
Yes. I really like it because I think it's the art style they went with. I think really kind of lends itself to like Nintendo 64 hardware and its limitations. I think as the 64 is kind of famous for being kind of like dark in its lighting, and of course, kind of with its anti-aliasing blur effect. And the way that they did the textures in the game and the way they did a lot of the model work really kind of plays into that stuff more than it, works against it. So I think visually it holds up very well, and it looks pretty clean, to be perfectly honest. Like you really don't really have to do much, like up-resing on the game unless you just kind of want to get rid of the blur factor for the game to look good, because it just kind of has an art style that really has aged quite well and played into a lot of the hardware that they were having to work with at the time.
Absolutely. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just going to go to say is that the only thing that has probably kind of aged the most is like the character models themselves. But that's mainly just because they kind of were using like SGI, Signograph, high powered computers, and then trying to compress them down into Nintendo 64 hardware limitations. So like character models themselves look a little bit off, but it was early 3D, so even that is fine.
Yeah. No, this game compared to the last few games that I covered on the podcast, I covered like Fable and Silent Hill. Um, Silent Hill was atrocious, man. The graphics were just so bad. I upscaled it and it made it decent, but it was really shocking when I first went back to Silent Hill. This game not. No, I was like, this is fine. This is good. So that it shocked me that they held up so well. And so yeah, basically it was great. The next point, like good point I wanted to go into was that the overall gameplay, like the battling and the shooting and the targeting, the barrel roll, the movement, all this stuff was actually pretty smooth. It was fun too. Like I found myself enjoying shooting bad guys out of the sky, especially on those fights with like Star Wolf and stuff. I found those fights to be like super fun for me.
Oh yeah. Oh, and especially yeah. And one of the best things about Star Fox 64, it is very much a pick up and play game. For example, for me at least, I could probably start up Star Fox 64 right now, go through hard route and beat hard route within like between 30 minutes and an hour.
Wow.
And you'll have like a really great experience with it. It's one of those games that you can play at any time and still have a blast with it. And I think one of the things that really lends itself to that is the game's pacing. They have it paced so well and polished pretty well, where it's pretty much kind of like a thrill ride all the way through, and you're not going to be stuck with like long cut scenes or have to go through like a tedious tutorial or anything. I mean, it's just pretty much action all the way through, and the controls are simple enough, but also polished enough where you can pretty much play it through more than once and still get the same enjoyment out of it each time.
Yeah, and I don't, like you were kind of saying, I don't think there's any boring parts to this game. I played through the whole game, and I was pretty happy with almost every single level. I think the only like level I didn't love was, ironically, I don't love Andross's first the first fight with Andross, like where he's like the big head. I don't know why. I mean, it's fine. It's pretty fast, so it doesn't last that long. I think the only reason is because I died a lot, so I had to like replay that part over and over. I was like, gosh dang it, I gotta fight the big head again. You know what I mean? Like,
for me, it's probably like the hard route version of the Star Wolf fight, because it's such a big challenge. I mean, it's like, unless you kind of go into that fight already prepared, it can be a bit of a run killer.
Yes, I mean, you saw me. I died over and over. I thought I wasn't gonna make it because I was trying not to save state this game, and
yeah,
I was getting wrecked because you told me, you gave me a hint. You're like, okay, save your lasers, try to not to die before on the previous level, because the next level you're gonna need it. I go to the next level, I get smoked like right away, because there's this one particular move that really helped out with that fight that I wasn't using most of the game, and it's that little like loop-de-loo where you like do a little loop and like you get behind the people. That was like the key. That was the key move that I needed to be doing the whole time. And before I was doing that though, they were and I think I had one character down. I think Slippy was dead for that fight.
So, Slippy was down like right before you had finished the Area 6 level, and I was thinking, like, right at the time, I didn't say anything in the stream, but I was thinking, like, oh no.
So I go into this fight with 3 pilots, and I'm getting smoked, and they were killing, I feel like your teammates are pretty useless in these fights for some reason. They don't really do a lot. One of the funny things is that I actually thought that they didn't do anything at all. But I actually saw a video once
that shows that occasionally they do actually shoot back. And funny enough, there was a video clip that I saw recently that showed Slippy actually successfully shoot down Andrew in that fight. And I was like, all my years playing Star Fox 64, I had never seen that happen. So to actually do something, but the odds of it actually happening is pretty rare.
Right, yeah, I feel like most of their usefulness is them just being like cannon fodder. You're like, okay, so at least all 4 of the characters aren't on me. At least they're chasing my teammates for like the time being until they go down.
Mm-hmm.
So like I think that's what they're like really good for. Is like, okay, they're just distractions while I take down one of these guys. But yeah, there was this moment that I wanted to mention specifically when I was playing the game, and you probably seen it, is where I was like, I think I was fighting 1 guy or 2 guys left. Maybe there was 2 guys on me, and maybe even 3. And I had Falco only left, and Falco is just sitting, running around in circles. Okay?
Yes.
All he's doing is just flying around in circles. And I'm like fighting off these 3 guys by myself or whatever, and I'm like, help me, some like Falco, what are you doing? You're you know, he's the one who's always complaining, like, oh Fox, like, wow, saved by him again. It's like, okay, you're gonna do this to me after I, you know, you're condescending, you know, and I don't know. It was kind of funny. So you know, I think that was one thing that I could mention, that is that some of the AI wasn't the greatest in this game, like especially your teammates. I would say that was like the really standout, was your teammates are kind of like, they're kind of goofy. They don't really, I don't know, they kind of do whatever.
Well, they're basically, a lot of what the teammates contribute to Star Fox 64 in particular is kind of more like tooltips. So maybe not exactly tooltips, but they all actually contribute something. Basically, Peppy basically serves as your in-game advisor. He basically reminds you to do different moves.
Okay, yep.
Falco's role, gameplay-wise, is to basically point out opportunities to gain extra points or to access secret paths.
Okay.
Slippy's role is to basically give you like information on like boss's health and stuff. So they all actually serve a role in terms of like the sandbox of the gameplay. It's just they don't play too much of a role where it really matters when it comes to air battle.
Yeah, exactly. Like the one thing you would think they like are supposed to do, they don't really do. So I want to ask you, I think I did ask on stream, and I just wanted to clarify, if you don't have Slippy, can you not see the boss's health?
No, that's by design, because they want you to keep Slippy alive so you can have that information.
I think that's so interesting. I didn't notice that. I think there was a boss fight where I didn't see his health, and I thought it was just part of the fight. And I was like, oh, wait, maybe that's because Slippy died. I didn't realize that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. So like you were saying, each teammate has, like, there's a reason you want them to kind of continue to the next level besides just being cannon fodder, is that they will, like, give you information that you might need to either get to a secret passage or see the boss's health or, like, you know, something like that. So I think that's super interesting.
Yeah. Also, one thing is interesting. Also, if a character is not present, sometimes the dialogue will be different.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, the dialogue will. Will it change completely, or you just won't hear certain things?
Most of the time, you won't hear certain things, but other times there'll be an alternate dialogue with that character absent. A best example of that is actually the Mito boss. The boss will actually have like completely different lines if Falco isn't present.
Okay, well, do you know the lines off the top of your head, or just?
Well, basically, you if I recall, you have actually fought that boss. So when you beat the back end of that boss, and then he's flipping over when he says, of course, I admit defeat, Falco usually chimes in, is like, are you going to believe that, monkey? Of course, then the boss is like, you know, haha, you're not as stupid as you look. Well, if Falco isn't there, the boss basically, you know, he says, you know, I admit defeat, and flips over, and then he says, if this does not work, and then he opens fire.
Oh, okay. Wow, I didn't know that. I had no idea. So that's pretty cool. So you having your characters alive can change kind of some of the dialogue, and I guess some of the story in a way a little bit, you know. So that's interesting. One other good point that I wanted to mention was the planet system and the
Mm-hmm.
different routes. This planet. So basically, for the viewers, just to let them know, there's different routes you can take from each planet. Not almost every planet. Not maybe not every single one, but like you know, if you do this certain special thing on a certain planet, and you won't really know what it is until you do it, or like, you know, you look it up or you hear something from one of your teammates. Like, for example, on Corneria, you have to fly through the rings. And then on Sector Y, I think it was, you have to like get a high score or kill all the robots. And it
Mm-hmm.
will let you go to either this planet or a different planet. And that will change basically how the game plays out from there. Because if you go to a different planet from a different planet, sometimes things will change in that world as well. And it makes the game super interesting. For example, like I think you were mentioning, like there's Cat and Bill, and you might have Cat on certain levels and Bill on certain levels based on which routes you take. Do you want to like maybe go into that a little bit more depth, or?
Yes. So, for example, if you go to Katina and help out Bill on destroying the mothership, which of course is one big homage to Independence Day. Um, then if you go to either Sector X or Solar, Bill will actually show up on either of those two levels to help you out. Same kind of goes with Kat. If you help Kat on Zonus, then she'll show up to either help you on Sector Z or Macbeth.
Okay, yeah.
And of course,
Go ahead.
yeah, and of course, they'll also kind of change kind of how those levels play out a little bit, and also alters the dialogue a little bit.
Yeah, Kat actually ended up helping me out big time, I think, with destroying some of the spotlights on one of the levels. I can't remember what level that is.
That's the Zonus level, is where she takes out the spotlights.
Yeah, so she comes in after you, I guess, helped her on a previous level. Where did you first meet her? I can't remember which level.
Zonus.
You do meet her on Zonus? Okay, yeah, she comes in and she's like, takes out the spotlights. It was so funny. I like the little theme music that plays for her every time she shows up. It's like this little, I don't even know what you call it. It's like a little jingle. It made me laugh. It was like, because it changes like the whole like scenario. You're like, oh man, I'm in this dark world and like, you know, I'm fighting off these things, and all of a sudden you hear this it's like this little like light jingle that you hear every time she shows up. You're like, okay, Kat, like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like
it's a really cute jingle, and the fact they actually bring it back and remix it in Star Fox Zero, and they add a little cat's meow at the end of that jingle.
That's funny. So yeah, basically, if anybody doesn't know, she's a cat. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
Cat is a cat. Fox is a fox, ironically. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and then Peppy's a rabbit. Slippy's a toad, and Falco is what he sounds like, a falcon.
Actually, he's actually not a falcon. Basically, depending on the source that you look at, both in Japanese and American sources, he's either a caracara or a pheasant.
Okay, so they just call him Falco just because it sounds cool, I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, because it basically his name Falco Lombardi is actually an homage to two separate characters that were from like various like films and animes that were big in Japan at the time.
Oh, okay. So it's an homage to some pop culture reference in Japan. I don't think I know about, but okay, that makes sense. They call him Falco. I mean, Falco is a cool name. I thought he was a falcon the entire time, but I guess, you know.
Well, a lot of people do.
Yeah. So unless I guess you look it up or something, you might not know. Or maybe in one of the games it mentions that he's not a falcon. I'm not really sure.
I don't think they ever actually mentioned that he's not a falcon.
Huh. That's kind of funny. Yeah. So basically, with that planet system, it adds a lot of replayability to the game. You know, so you can go through one route, and then you can go through a separate route, and then you can go through an alternate version of both of those routes, like they mix together. And there's like, I don't even know how many do you know how many combinations of routes there actually are in this game? Do you know?
I used to know, but unfortunately, I do not have that. I don't remember what the actual amount was, but it was like a pretty high number. I would say it was like in the either the high 70s or low 80s of possible combinations.
Yeah, and that's incredible. That's a lot of combinations. I mean, it's not going to completely change your gameplay every single time, but there's
Hmm.
going to be a lot of those game combinations that do change certain things, and
Yeah,
spoilers for people who play the game. The easy route, you don't get the full fight of Andross. You get only half the fight.
yeah.
In the hard mode, you get the other half of the fight. So, there are certain combinations that really do matter in this game as far as gameplay wise goes, and that's why I played it through multiple times. What did I do? No,
Yeah,
actually I played it through three. I beat it 3 times, not twice. I beat
yeah,
it 3 times.
yeah.
I
Now,
Go
funny
ahead.
enough, I don't mean to interrupt, but funny enough, in at one time there was plan on being more routes to Star Fox 64. It was uncovered in the Giga Leak that unfortunately didn't make it into the final retail game. They were planning on actually having like a full normal route as well, so that way there have been three ways to get to Venom, and also three versions of the Andross fight. And in
That would have
fact,
been sick.
one of the planned on foot missions was actually going to be the normal route to Venom. Unfortunately, like almost none of it still exists in the final game, but there is basically what looks like a partially constructed cutscene that is basically that would have shown basically Fox's Arwing basically landing next to that big huge dome entrance that he usually flies into and said he would like park it. And there's a developer interview that basically said that their plan was for the normal route of the Andross fight is that Fox would have fought Andross on foot, and as they put it, you would have gotten out of your R wing and shoot Andross in the face with a bazooka.
Oh, what? Okay, I didn't know that they were gonna make Andross an on foot boss fight. That would have been kind of cool, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it would have.
Yeah, it would. I mean, they had to cut a lot of corners with a lot of these games because they, like I was saying, they were doing the cutting edge back then. They were the one of the leaders in the industry along with PlayStation, and they were just shooting title after title after title. So I'm sure there was a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
corners taken. One of the famous ones is Majora's Mask, where Miyamoto, I guess, told their team like, yeah, you can create this new game, but you have a year to do it, which is like
yes.
insane. So you got to think about that when it comes to these other games. I'm sure they were on strict time limits as well.
Oh, they were.
They were probably overworked. I'm sure they were working 12, 16-hour days, just like blasting
Mm-hmm.
these games out. But they came out so good still. We got even though there's cut content, everything in the game has been really good.
Oh well,
Um,
yeah. I mean, everything that's in the final game of Star Fox 64 is pretty much polished to a T.
yeah, and I feel that. I pretty much feel that way almost about everything in the game. Um, there, with besides from your teammates AI or whatever that I mentioned, there's one other bad point that, and I didn't actually have a lot of bad. I had trouble finding bad points for this game because that's what I do. I like try to find good and bad.
Mhm.
One of the small little things that I had was like braking while shooting. That was kind of hard for me because like you have to like press down on the C pad, and then you got to also press, like if you have an N64 controller, you would be doing this as well, where you press down on the C pad, and then you have to like press the shoot button at the same time, and it put my
Mhm.
hand in this like weird position where I had to like put my hand over the controller, push down with my thumb, and then put my index like finger on the A. Maybe there's a better way to do it, but I was like, this is like the one of the gripes that I kind of had was like this one mechanic where I was like, I wish I could kind of do both at the same time. I wish I could hold down the A button and like it just shot as well, because my finger, like the whole game, on stream you could probably just hear me tapping. It's like that 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 like the whole
Yeah,
time, you know.
yeah. Um, I don't ever recall having that particular issue myself. Of course, given that it was one of the first games I played, pretty much its controls are pretty much second nature to me. So, of course, then again, I've always never really had issues with the Nintendo 64 controller anyway. I know it's a much complained about controller, but I always just kind of held it like a PlayStation controller. It's just forget about that third prong that's on the farthest left. I always just held the middle one and then the one on the right.
So it sounds like that you didn't have like the problems with the controls that I'm having. I guess I guess it's like user error for me. Or I'm mad because bad. But yeah, it was just that one mechanic I really had issues. Two
Mhm.
mechanics. The pressing
Mhm.
the A button over and over. I wish I could have just held that down. And then the second one was like just braking while shooting. I kind of had a hard time doing that. But everything else felt smooth. Everything else felt super
Yeah.
super smooth. Um,
Yes. One of the things I also like about Star Fox 64 is, at least for me, at least, I always kind of felt like was absent in the other games in the series, is you actually get a bit of a sense of speed with the Arwing in Star Fox 64. I think it actually feels like you're flying a fast vehicle, or I don't know. Other Star Fox games does not have the same kind of sense of speed. I think Assault it is actually kind of the worst in that aspect. It really the R ring doesn't really feel like it's moving fast anywhere in that game.
Yeah. So they make it slower in the next games. I guess they make it feel like kind of like sluggish.
Um, I guess that's the way to best describe it in Assault. But to me, it always felt like it moved slower. It felt heavier. It didn't really feel as fast or as maneuverable in Assault.
I do feel like in the N64, I haven't played. So just for clarification for the viewers as well, I haven't played Adventures, I haven't played Assault, I haven't played the 3DS, and I haven't played Zero. I know, like I'm a noob. Okay, I get it. I pretty much exclusively have only played Star Fox 64, and I will, just for a reference, I will probably end up playing some of these games for the podcast in a future episode. So just I don't know when. It will be probably whenever like it's really demanding, like if people really want me to play it. But yeah, I felt like when I used the speed button on Star Fox 64, like I was able to like speed through the buildings and stuff when I needed to. So I did feel fast when I used that booster. I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of agree with you that you do get a sense that you're flying a vehicle that's kind of fast,
Yes.
uh, which is like what you want, from a spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
If you're flying a spaceship, you want to feel quick. It's like a jet, you know.
Yes.
So
And I mean, it's not like, and like I said, that's going to be, kind of contentious opinion. I mean, there's going to be some people that really like how it feels in like Assault or Adventures and some of the other games. But it just didn't feel the same for me. Now, as far as I recall, Star Fox 64 3D, it feels pretty much like it does in Star Fox 64.
okay, in 3D, it feels like pretty much the same thing then. Okay, good. Yeah, I mean that's good. I think that's making it feel the same is good because that it was a good design. I liked it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I'm gonna pose some like questions for you. You can either give me a long answer or a short answer. I think they'll be kind
Mhm.
of some of them might be kind of fun to answer. So if you could redesign one level, what twist would you add? And if you can't think of one, you can just say skip or whatever.
No. I can think of a couple that would be kind of some interesting twists. Uh, I think uh, I think it would have been more interesting if the submarine mission for Aquas was more of an all range mission instead of a linear mission. I know in the Giga Leak there is some evidence to suggest that at one point they were kind of considering that one to be an all range submarine mission. I think that would have been a good change just because of how that submarine feels.
Do you
Um,
feel like people find Aquas to be kind of a contentious level a little bit?
yes, I think a lot of people will probably list that level as their least favorite just because of how it feels, which is kind of funny because uh, back in the Giggly, there is evidence to show that there was going to be a lot of planned submarine missions, both linear and all range. In fact, Zonus was going to be a submarine mission, and at one point, the Snow Planet was going to be Pachina was going to be a um, a submarine mission too. There's actually an interview out there from one of the developers that said that they actually made a lot of these submarine missions, but then they cut all but one of them because they felt like it slowed down the pacing too much.
Hmm.
And this developer said it really broke a lot of the hearts of a lot of people on the team because they really liked the submarine, making the submarine levels, and they felt like that this was going to be like the big breakout hit for Star Fox 64, and they were really disappointed that only one of them made it into the game. And funny enough, that it became like the least popular type of gameplay for Star Fox 64.
Yeah, I
But
can. Go ahead.
yeah, and to answer your question, I think one of the biggest twists or remixes I would have loved to have done to a level is have Starwolf be involved in the Katina mission. Have them actually show up to protect the mothership to make it really that much more of like an intense air battle.
Oh, that would have been so. Yeah, have them show up with the Independence Day one. By the way, for people who don't know, the big mothership that shows up for the Independence Day. Have them show up for the Katina. That would make sense. That makes a lot of sense. Having them show up for
Uh-huh.
that. I always thought that mission was really interesting because Independence Day back then was still a pretty big hit. I
Mm-hmm.
think it. I don't know. I don't know what year Independence Day came out. Maybe 94, 5, 6, something like that.
Yeah, it was like just like a year or two before Star Fox 64. There actually is an Independence Day game on the PS1. And oh, even people at the time said that Star Fox 64 is a better Independence Day game than the Independence Day game.
That's so funny. Yeah, because yeah, basically it's the same thing. It's they just it's like you said, it's an homage, to that. If you
Mm-hmm.
haven't seen Independence Day, by the way, and you're like young, go back and watch Independence Day. It's a good movie. It still holds up today. It's still a good movie. It has Will Smith.
It's
You'll like it.
it is it is one of the better Roland Emmerich films.
Yeah, I don't even know who that is. What else did he do?
The director, he did Stargate, he did Independence Day, he did the late '90s American Godzilla movie, and he did Day After Tomorrow, and a few other films too. But I think Independence Day is one of his best ones.
Out of those that you mentioned, it probably is. I did like the Godzilla one, but it was just mostly because I was a kid. I think I don't think it was
Yeah,
like
same here.
I wasn't like I don't
And
think it's like
plus,
go ahead.
yeah, and plus, I was a big fan of Jean Reno, the French actor in that film.
Oh, okay. Ooh, I'm trying to remember that actor. For some reason I can't remember, but I do remember the movie a lot. At least you know what, and this is gonna sound funny. I actually, I was thinking I was like 7 in the theater when I watched it, and I cried at the end when Godzilla died. I was like, oh no, like he's dying. There's like the heartbeat, and it's like I think there's
Uh-huh.
music. It's like really sad. It's kind of like the King Kong thing, but it was
Yeah.
my parents were laughing. They were like, "What, dude? You're like crying about Godzilla?" Like he's kind of like not a good guy, but whatever.
No, no. One of the things that's funny about that particular Godzilla movie, one of the only films that has almost the entire cast of The Simpsons in it, because they were all casted to play like some of those side characters in the film.
What? That's kind of cool. That's actually kind of neat. Yeah, I like The Simpsons.
So it's yeah, so it's like it's one of the few times where they actually like played like you actually see them play a live action characters instead of them just being voice actors.
That
But anyway, that's a bit of a side topic.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
It's all good. I mean, maybe people will find it interesting. I do.
but yeah, I think I would have loved to have seen like Starwolf show up for the Kina mission, or have Starwolf be like a randomized appearance for several of the levels. Like like if you see, there's a thing in Star Fox 2. I know you haven't played it, but in Star Fox 2, Starwolf is actually in that cancel game. That was actually where they originally were created for. And in that game, everything is actually done real time. You actually travel from planet to planet on this big, huge, like tactical map. And you'll also see Starwolf on that same tactical map. And they'll actually like try to intercept you, or will even show up on a planet that you're on if you take too long to beat the mission on that planet.
What's
And
Star
I
Wolf's
always
deal? What's the whole story behind? I mean, don't not the whole story, but what's the story behind that guy?
okay, so Starwolf was a mercenary team. They are supposed to be basically like the evil counterparts of the Star Fox team. They were created by Takira Irimura. He wasn't really involved too much for the development of Star Fox 2, and I'll get into a little bit as to why. But one of the things that he did contribute to Star Fox 2 was the concept of the Star Wolf team, because he felt like that the Star Fox team should basically have like rivals that work for the opposing side and are basically like dark counterparts to the Star Fox team. And so they created them for Star Fox 2, but since Star Fox 2 got canceled, they weren't able to use that concept. So Imura basically repurposed that idea for Star Fox 64. Now, the backstory is that Wolf O'Donnell, the leader of Star Wolf, is basically, he used to be the arch rival to James McCloud. And it's described in the Japanese sources that Wolf O'Donnell was once a honorable mercenary who basically let his hatred of James McCloud basically corrupt his morals and values, and is basically become almost a straight up pirate. And originally he basically considered his rivalry with the McClouds done after James died. But basically, and of course in the Japanese sources, Pigma Dangar, who used to be part of the original Star Fox team before he became a traitor, it says in the Japanese sources and what is their version of the canon, that Pigma Dangar is basically been manipulating Wolf and basically refanning his hatred of the McClouds to basically focus his dislike of James McCloud and transplanting it into Fox McCloud. So basically, Pigma is using Wolf to basically use Wolf's old animosity towards James McCloud to have him go after Fox McCloud instead, and basically use him as a tool for Andross.
Okay, so that makes a little bit of sense. Pigma just seems kind of like Pigma seems like a total jerk, by the way. Like a total.
Oh well,
yeah.
Yes. There's some things for that. Now, interesting enough, Pigma's backstory is basically different in the American canon and in the Japanese canon. But I mean, it's still very similar to each other. But basically, in the Japanese canon, Pigma was once a scientist that had worked with Andross prior to Andross's exile. Then James McCloud basically hired Pigma to basically serve as his like engineer and basically armorsmith and gadget person for the team. Basically, his version of Slippy. And when Andross basically turned out to not be dead and was basically amassing an army to declare war on the Lylat System in Corneria, Andross got in touch with Pigma and basically called upon his old friendship and loyalty to basically have him switch sides from working with James McCloud to basically work for Andross and essentially betray James McCloud. In the so that's basically Pigma's backstory in the Japanese canon, more or less. Now, in the American canon, basically, Pigma Dangar was just a experienced pilot, a bit of a thug, if I thought he had potential, and recruited him to the Star Fox team. And then Andross wanted basically like an inside man within the Star Fox team, so he basically bribed Pigma to basically serve as a spy with lots and lots of money. And and eventually, when the time came, Andross had betray James McCloud. So it's kind of different. One, it's like old friendship and loyalty, and then the other, it's basically bribery and greed.
Gotcha. I mean that makes a lot of sense. I mean I didn't know all that stuff. I mean Pigma sounds like a total scumbag.
He is.
Yeah.
He is basically considered to be the scumbag within the Star Wolf team, and one of the things is odd is it's Star Fox Zero for the Wii U There is some really odd retcons in that particular game, and one of the retcons in that game is basically the implication that Pigma was a spy for Andross all along, and that James McCloud never actually worked with Pigma before prior to the mission that Pigma betrayed James McCloud. And I always thought that was such an odd retcon that Star Fox Zero did.
Is Star Fox Zero a remake of some sort?
That depends on who you ask. Nintendo's official stance is that it is a reimagining. Um, generally, the fan base treat it as a reboot.
Okay. So I mean, this is where I get a little confused between remaster, reimagining, and remake. I feel like each of them are just kind of different tiers of another. But so a lot of people considered a reimagining is what you were saying, which to me sounds like it's not a remake, but it's kind of like a what if scenario or what?
I mean, you could treat it as such, and I think you'd be perfectly fine treating it as such. There is like some weird like meta references in Star Fox Zero where the characters practically comment that, we have done this before, even though this has technically never really happened before in that game story. Um, um, but I would, like I said, a lot of people basically treat it as a reboot, and that's kind of how you could treat it as such. Um, I'll quickly. Now, I will say on that, a lot of people are going to say that Star Fox 64 is a reboot. Technically, while that's true, Nintendo never really treated Star Fox 64 as a reboot. They basically, at the time when Star Fox 64 came out, their stance was that Star Fox 64 does not retcon Star Fox 1 on the Super Nintendo. It basically, as they put it, just tells other stories of what happened at the same time as the events of Star Fox 1. It's basically like, here's other missions that the Star Fox team did during the Lylat Wars, or, even though when you actually look at the two games, there is quite a few like inconsistencies that basically make it incongruent with each other. But most of it is just like ancillary material, but still.
Okay,
So
I see what they're saying, but I would have to, maybe push back on them a little bit, basically, because I haven't played the original Star Fox, but I watched a video at the end of my stream, and basically you're going through Corneria, and the last boss is the same last boss that you fight in the secret level, and it's the same boss. Like, I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, wow, they just took this boss and they like put it in like the upgraded version in 3D. But it's the same exact one. It's like the one with the one arm, and it has like another arm that has like two missiles on it, and you got to shoot inside the like where it's shooting out of. I don't know how to explain it, but the two arms.
yes,
You
yeah.
know?
There's basically a flight hangar on one side, and then the other one is two missile batteries.
Yeah, exactly. And so you fight that same boss in Star Fox 64. So I don't know about that whole. I mean, maybe. But I don't know about that unless there's multiple ships like that. Maybe that's what it was. But that could be the case. There's multiple ships that are the same thing, because I don't think there was like a boss that talks to you at the in the original SNES version, from what I was seeing. So
Yeah, I think there's only like one or two bosses in the Super Nintendo version of Star Fox that actually have any like lines, and I think one of them is Andross. So, um, but I'll briefly kind of touch upon the other two members of Star Wolf, Andrew and Leon. Andrew, he is actually Andross's nephew, and basically, Andrew is not a skilled pilot. He is very arrogant, and Wolf doesn't even really want Andrew on the team. But he's basically only letting him be on the team because, well, it's just to satisfy his employer, which is Andross, because Andross wanted Andrew essentially out of the way and basically put him in the Star Wolf team as essentially nepotism.
okay.
Leon, on the other hand, he is a rather interesting character. And to be perfectly honest, he's probably my favorite member of the Star Wolf team. But um, in the Japanese canon, Leon Pulaski is not a Lilatian. He did not live in the Lylat system. It basically says that he came from another star system elsewhere in the galaxy, and he has always essentially been a assassin for hire. And it says that he used to go by the call sign of Killing Machine because of his essentially his brutality and his skill with murder. And but he renamed himself as the Great Leon when he entered the Lylat system, and because of his skill and past history, Wolf basically invited him to join the team.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. You know what? This actually gives me an idea, and I think maybe if people find it interesting, they can let me know. Maybe I might do like some bonus episodes where we actually deep dive into some of these things, because I feel like with these main line episodes, it's a lot about like reviewing my experience, and then like kind of we do talk about some of these topics and stuff, but I feel like it could really benefit from doing just like a bonus episode where it's like deep dive Star Fox, and you can just go into each iceberg, because it sounds like there's so much material. You know what I
Oh
mean?
well, yes.
And you could do
Yeah,
like 3 hours of material or more. So
oh yeah, for sure. I think Star Fox would be a really good one for that because the problem with Star Fox is the information is really fragmented, and I think this would be a good opportunity to bring up why that is. Because okay, so you have Star Fox. Well, what got translated and established in the United States and for the rest of the world is a bit different from the Japanese canon. And so you have the American canon and the Japanese canon, and or at least a better term would be the international canon. So you have that. Then, because there was never really like a full centralized spot for all the information, because the majority of this franchise was like late '90s, early 2000s before internet became commonplace. You have a lot of like head canon and fanon that basically became accepted as fact within the fan base because there was no real central source or accurate sources of information for a lot of the lore. So a lot of people, for the longest time, either it was like word of mouth or, made assumptions based off of different things that were stated in the game, or basically a fan site dedicated to Star Fox wrote about it and then everybody else took it as fact. And so you have that. And then you also have the fact that a lot of like some of the lore related to Star Fox is not in the games. It's not in the manuals, but it'll be in like a developer interview that may or may not be translated.
mm, yeah, that
And,
seems
and
to happen a
so,
lot.
yeah. And so a lot of like the lore and story of the Star Fox world, there's a lot of it, but it's very much fragmented. Now it's gotten better in the past 10 years because you have people like Hero X, Dino Man, Mighty Andross 64, all of which on Reddit have basically done a really good job of like piecing together what is the actual canon of Star Fox, or at least translating interviews, or like clearing up like misinformation or what had been seen as fact, which was actually really just fandom headcanon. And so there is a Star Fox wiki, but honestly, just exploring old threads on Reddit is actually you actually get a better information from like older Reddit threads from some of those guys that done some of that research work than it is actually looking at the wiki. Not to disparage the Star Fox fan wiki. There's some dedicated people that work on that, but it needs some TLC bad because the information is all over the place and it's not always properly sourced. Or if it is sourced, it sometimes is taken from a fan site, and then when you look at that fan site, there's no source from where that fan site got it. They might have just made up that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. And I think part of the reason, and this is me speculating here, that happens with Star Fox is because they kind of man, they kind of dropped the ball on this franchise a little bit. Like they went really hard, did really good, had a little maybe hiccup with adventures, maybe better received later on, da 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 da. And then they just kind of like, we don't know what to do with it. They're like, we're just gonna let it go. And so I
Yeah.
think that's part of the reason that this has happened. So
Hmm.
it led to a lot of fragmentation, led to a lot of speculation from fans and people. I mean, I went on that Star Fox subreddit. I made my post, asking for guests and all that stuff, and people are very, very, very passionate about this series, and I can see
Hmm.
that, and it makes me sad to see that there's so many people that are just like, what's going on with Star Fox? Like
Hmm.
when's the next game or when's the story? And people are working on comics and all this other stuff. It's so cool, It's like, but they're let down by kind of the developers in a way, you know.
Yeah.
So
Well, and yeah, and a lot of it is just simply unfortunate timing for various things. Um, when a little bit later, I might kind of touch on that a little bit. Um, because some of the later Star Fox games had a lot of just like bad luck and bad timing for various things. Um, that kind of contributed to that. I will say one kind of more infamous example of like misinformation that was just taken as fact for a long time, and it turned out to just be simply headcanon. You probably heard of it before, but the whole metal legs thing that a lot of people just assumed was like fact, and it turned out that it was just basically people making an assumption based off of some concept art
metal legs. Oh,
from
is that the Star Fox metal legs?
yes. You see, there back in the 2000s, it was assumed that in the the old Super Nintendo Star Fox games, they were much more dark and stuff. Did you know that in order to fly those Arwings, they had to like amputate their legs and replace them with prosthetics because of the G forces? And everybody just like took that for like fact for like a decade, and eventually it got to the point where somebody like even like asked like Dylan Cuthbert, who was like one of the lead developers for like Star Fox 1 and 2. And he was like, where did that come from? That was never that was never something in the games that I worked on.
Oh, so people were just like, yeah, speculate, and it became a huge fan theory, and then everyone is like, the guy's like, what? No.
Yeah.
Oh man, because I think you like in Smash Brothers, you can have metal legs, right?
Well, I mean, it's in Smash Brothers. It's just metal boots.
Oh,
They look like metal legs, but that's mainly just because of the art style and just the graphics of the game. I mean, that's one reason that led to that theory in the first place.
I thought they did metal legs as a like a homage, like as a custom costume you can choose or something. But I don't play Fox in Smash, so I don't really know. Um,
Well, I haven't, to be perfectly honest, I haven't played a Smash game since Brawl, so I can't tell you for sure. But for what I've always can tell, it's always been boots.
okay, yeah, yeah. I played Ultimate, but I don't pay attention. Like again, I play mostly. I actually just picked up Mega Man and what's the other guy? Captain Falcon is the one I play a lot. Captain Falcon. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you a couple more little questions here, and then we'll go into some. We'll go into the rating of the game, and then we'll go into reviews. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so what's the coolest Easter egg that you've discovered?
Ooh, coolest Easter egg, like in the game itself?
Yes.
Hmm. Hmm. I would say that probably one of the coolest Easter eggs that comes to mind for me is well probably the fact that if you actually try to enter Sector X without Slippy, there is actually a whole actually a whole extra piece of dialogue where Slippy actually rejoins the team, and it's like, "Don't forget about me, guys." Well, Slippy,
Huh.
your ship was busted, and it's like, I made some quick repairs. I'm here.
Why did they do that?
Because they had to make sure that Slippy was present for the Spyborg boss fight, so that way you could have the possible branching paths of Slippy getting slapped and sent to Titania, or you beat the boss in time before that happens.
Oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I forgot the level where you have to go rescue her. Actually, that level,
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of that one for some reason. Maybe because you're in a tank. Are you in a tank in that one? Yeah, that's
No,
right.
no.
Titania, you're not.
In Titania, you're in a tank.
Okay, yeah, it's like, and the reason was because like it's easier to see on ground.
Mhm.
Do you have talking about tanks? Do you have a favorite vehicle or one that you hate?
I would say probably my favorite vehicle is actually the Landmaster. I really like the Landmaster levels in Star Fox 64. I really like both Titania and Macbeth, especially Macbeth. I really like fighting the train boss. I feel like he is a fun character to go up against. And I just really like the whole idea that you're like attacking and chasing this train and just battling through this entire um, compound. It really feels like you're doing like this really like daring commando raid kind of thing. Probably my least favorite is probably actually the submarine.
Yeah, it seems like that's like pretty much like general public opinion about the submarine. Most, you know what, the submarine just felt like the Arwing, just slower to me, and I think that's why I think that's why it's probably my least favorite is the submarine.
Well, funny enough, the actual in lore explanation for the submarine is that Slippy built the submarine out of spare Arwing and Landmaster parts.
Okay, I mean that makes sense. Yeah, I think the whole, because you remember how I was talking about smashing the A button. You also have to smash the B button in that one, so you're literally smashing both the A and B buttons that entire map. So I don't know. It was a little cumbersome, I would say, but it was it's cool there's a different level. I do appreciate that there's something different there, so I can say that about it.
Yeah.
Which Star Fox pilot would you want as your real life co-pilot and why?
Ooh, that's maybe Peppy or Fox, one of those two.
Yeah, I think if I couldn't choose Fox, it's Peppy. It's got to be Peppy for me. He's the only one that I mean, they all have probably about, I don't know, maybe not, maybe in lore it's different, but they may have like all about close to equal skill. But Peppy's like the most informative for me. You know, he's like the most helpful. He's like, do a barrel roll, or like, use this button to lock onto it. It's like, okay, at least this guy's giving me some tips. You know.
Yeah. One thing is funny is you know how it's kind of slippy, but somebody actually on Reddit like counted every time you actually had to like save one of your wingmates throughout the entire game. And if I recall, the person that actually needs to be rescued the most throughout the game is actually Falco. And Slippy is like one of the ones you actually have to do the least, but it just feels like it's so often with Slippy.
It's her voice. It's got to be the voice. Fox, help me! Like she's screaming, and I think that's probably, it just stands out. It's got to be.
Oh, speaking of Slippy's voice, I always think it's so hilarious when you crash and it's Slippy doing it because their no is so dramatic. It's like you crash and he's like, no!
Yeah, it's so dramatic. I think everything with Slippy's dramatic. That's why it's so memorable, Who's your toughest boss fight in the game? Well, actually, you said besides the Star Wolf fight at the end on the hard one. Who's your toughest boss fight in the game?
I don't know. I've beaten so many of the bosses so well that I kind of breezed through almost all. I guess I would say probably I would say probably either the missiles in Sector Z, even though that's not technically a boss, or Andross's brain, because you have to keep doing all those types behind. But yeah, I mean, I'm basically so familiar with the game that the bosses don't really give me too much of a challenge anymore, except for the hard Star Wolf one. But if I had to pick a traditional boss that still is a challenge, I would say probably Andross's brain.
Yeah, probably for me too. If I had to pick a boss that was like, and I think it's not that it's hard. It's just that you gotta like it just takes patience. I think that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to be a little patient. And if you're like me, where I'm like, a W key, shift W type of player in like FPSs, like I get
Mm-hmm.
impatient. I'm like, I just want to shoot him. Just like let me,
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, yeah, not hard. Star Wolf was hard. If you don't know what you're doing, definitely hard.
Oh, it's hard even if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, there's just you can definitely lose health easily if you're not careful. What's your top tip for newcomers trying to earn that exclusive gold medal on every stage?
Well, here's a funny thing. I've never actually achieved all the gold medals on all the levels. I just never really pursued it. But I would say that um, for some of the levels, what I would recommend doing is use the homing shot a lot because not only does it have a bigger blast radius and can take out some of the ships close to them. With a single shot because there's close enough information that they'll get shot down too. But some enemies will actually give you bonus points if you use the homing shot on it. Also, especially on like Corneria, depending on where you fly, will sometimes spawn extra enemies for you to. That's giving you more opportunities to rack up more points.
Okay, nice. If Peppy, Falco, and Slippy formed a band, who would play which instrument?
Okay. I could imagine like Peppy play guitar. I could see Slippy use like a synthesizer keyboard. And maybe Falco on drums. And maybe Fox singing.
Okay, all right, yeah, I could see that. I think I was thinking about it. I'm like, I would see Slippy on drums, Falco playing electric guitar, Peppy playing like a flute, or maybe the keyboard, and then Fox doing the singing. So I think that's where I would put him. Yeah. So we'll go into my review and my final, all that stuff. Before I go into rating the game, are there any final thoughts you wanted to add before me rating it?
Well, I'll just say, in terms of my overall impressions of Star Fox 64, I believe that it is the best Star Fox game in the franchise. I think it is probably the most polished of the titles. I think it has aged very gracefully and has a pick up and play replayability that makes it just as good now as it was then. And I think that the Star Fox franchise absolutely needs more love from Nintendo, and that I think that Star Fox 64 is a really good game that everybody should try at least once. Even if you're not like into like space combat or the anthropomorphic characters or old video games, I think it's like definitely one of those games you should try at least once.
Okay. And then so I'm gonna ask you to rate the game based on that. And instead of 1 out of 10, how many planets are there in Star Fox? Do you know?
Ooh, 15.
15. Okay, so 15. So out of 15 planets, what do you rate this game?
I rated 14 planets out of 15.
Okay, that's pretty good. So it's not perfect, but it's close, you would say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So, man, what would I rate? I think out of 15 planets, I would have to give it. Man, I was gonna give it like a 9 out of 10, and how that translates to 15, I think it's got to be close to like 13.8 or something, or 0.5, or 14. Like it's got to be close. It's got to be up there. I'm not giving it a perfect score because of some of the AI is a little funky, and then the braking while shooting, and the spamming the button. If those things didn't exist, this game would be 15 out of 15 planets, man.
Oh, I agree.
This game. So coming back to this game, I didn't expect to have that much fun. I did not. I did not expect, because it's a railroad shooter, and that's not really my type of game. But when I come back to Star Fox 64, I just have a blast. And you can get through it pretty quick, at least one run. You can do it in like an hour, even if you're inexperienced. And it's just a good time the entire time. The voice lines are fun. The music is fun. The graphics are still decent. Like, everything about this game is good. This is probably the best rating that I've given a game so far since I've been playing the retro games for the podcast. This has got to be one of the best ones that I've played. And that's saying a lot, because I really enjoyed those other games. This game is gold. It's gold. And anybody who says it's not just isn't a railroad, just doesn't like these types of games. If you like this type of game at all, you're going to love Star Fox 64. Now, I'm going to go into some of the viewer comments, and you can just chime in after each one if you'd like. If you don't want to, that's fine too. We'll go with Joshua Schaefer Hund 94 on Reddit. He says, and this is because I made a Reddit post and people made their opinions. He said, meh, Star Fox 64 is a good game in its own right, but I honestly prefer Star Fox 1, 2, and 0. They offer a lot more of what I like about the series from gameplay perspective. 64 just focuses on its challenges a bit too much on grinding for points off obstacles and enemies, and not enough on purely surviving the levels utilizing the Arwings momentum-based physics like those other games for my liking. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people, maybe not so much now, but I know in years past, there was a lot of people that really, really liked the Super Nintendo Star Fox games. And I think that's perfectly valid. There is a lot of charm with those games. I actually think that Star Fox 2 holds up really well. I think you're going to be blown away if you ever play it.
I'm so excited. Yeah.
However, I kind of feel like Star Fox 1, especially if you play on original hardware, is kind of rough. Now, if you're playing it like on an emulator, with like some patches and enhancements, it's a really good time. But I kind of feel like the original Star Fox 1 has not exactly aged the best. I mean, the polygons are a little bit hard to look at times. There is not some quality of life features as Star Fox 64 and Star Fox 2 have that is absent in Star Fox 1. So, at least for me, since I did not grow up with Star Fox 1, I just have a hard time seeing it as straight up like superior to Star Fox 64. Although I will have to say it has a really good soundtrack in its own right, and there is a lot of really unique boss fights in it. But Zero has really good presentation value. That it's hampered by a really bizarre control scheme. Now there is ways to work around it. In fact, there is a guy named Jetero6 who has recently come up with a way to basically on a Wii U emulator to basically take all of the motion controls that Zero has and tie it into actual button inputs. And it's like night and day. It is like a much, much better game when he like reworked it into more of a traditional control scheme.
Wait, what was Zero released for? Was it the Wii or something?
It was released for the Wii U.
Oh.
And it was like one of the last games for the Wii U, even though it like started development like before the Wii U even came out.
Oh, okay. And the Wii U had a weird control. I didn't buy the Wii U. It looked like the Switch to me.
Basically, they really wanted something that would like showcase like a lot of like the capabilities of what the Wii U could do. So it has like, so you have two screens. It has motion control, a bunch of other features. But the problem is a lot of these things kind of work against each other. Perfectly doable. You can play it, but that by the time Star Fox Zero came out, people were really like disappointed and tired of the Wii U, and so there wasn't a lot of really excitement to play something that was like so focused on like hardware capabilities and its gimmicks. And then the fact that there was not a traditional controller option available. So basically, you were stuck in a situation where you see they made Zero kind of with like almost like with co-op in mind, but not really. So you have two screens. One shows one's on the TV and it shows the ship, and then the other one on the Wii U tablet is the inside of the cockpit. And so you have to look at both the TV screen to kind of keep an eye on where you're going, and you have to aim at the same time with the tablet. And so you're constantly having to move your eyes up and down between the two screens. And not a lot of people are going to be good at that or going to be patient enough with that, because if you're focusing too much on one, you're going to crash into stuff. If you're focusing too much on the other, you're not going to be able to hit anything because you're going to keep missing your shots because you're not really aiming.
That sounds like a bad version of the 3DS. You know, like that's like that sounds because like the two screens where it's like, but the two screens are compact on the DS. You know, so you can like look up and down real quick instead of like doing this like up down. Like that sounds tiresome. I didn't know that. That's
no. I will say there is people that will absolutely swear by the fact that you can learn it, you can master it, and I agree, you probably can. I just don't have the patience to do that, and so there's been some people that like Better 06, who have tried to basically come up with a solution, and it looks like the solution works really well. It makes the game a lot more fun.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, cool. I might have to check out that solution. I mean, I don't know if I'll ever. I mean, the Wii U. I don't have a Wii U. I mean, maybe that's gonna be a hard one to get into if it's like that. But we'll see. We'll see. Puzzle Head.
Like I said, you can get a Wii U emulator.
Yeah, it'd probably be actually better on an emulator because the screen is like right there instead of up and down. Puzzlehead Rain 640 said, I recently played the 3DS remaster playing the 64 version partially when I was younger. Very fun game with a decent skill ceiling and funny animations and quirky repeatable dialogue. Gosh, I wish I was there, more readily available and polished to a modern Nintendo AA Sheen. Sorry, that sentence was weird for me. If a Kid Icarus can be a cult classic, I don't know why Star Fox can't.
Well, I agree. And at what time, Star Fox was actually a mainstream franchise. Most of it, unfortunately, is gone now because of just how the internet is developed. But if you look hard enough, you'll find that at one time in the late '90s, there was like over a dozen or so Star Fox fan sites. Basically, between the original Star Fox and the Super Nintendo, so I would say probably around the time Adventures got released, there was a big Star Fox fan base, and there was like multiple fan sites. There was lots of places where like fan art, fan fiction was being done. I actually, when I was like trying to do research for my own Star Fox fan project, which I might talk about at the end of this podcast, but when I was doing research for that, I came across this super old fan site that's still online, that was made back in 1997 and was still active up until about 2002, where somebody basically did like a live role play of the whole like Lylat War as like a strategy game, and had like different people like playing like this whole campaign as like people on like Andross' side and people on like the Cornerian side, and then like have some other players playing like the Star Fox team, and actually it was like treated like an actual war game. And I was like, that shows you just like how big Star Fox was at the time, that there would be like a whole fan site that basically turned Star Fox into like an online war game, with like pen and paper and a whole website to it. And I was like blown away when I saw that. And I think I definitely think there's still a lot of potential for Star Fox. I know that there's a lot of naysayers and a lot of people that are bitter or kind of cynical regarding how the franchise is treated and the trajectory stuff, but I think there's still a lot of potential and life in the Star Fox franchise. It just needs one big hit. Like if it could get one big hit, and has the sales to back it up, I think could easily once again become a big franchise, whether or not it sticks with the traditional Star Fox formula.
Okay. Yeah, I hope they do. I hope they come out with a big new hit and this franchise gets reignited. For the sake of all the Star Fox fans. I really do. So we're at the point where we're coming to we're kind of concluding the podcast. So you have some socials, you have a YouTube channel. Do you want to let people know where to find you online and like what you're doing?
Yes. Yes, you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on YouTube. I should all be under the handle of SummerSetBanjo. I also have Reddit. I am working on a Star Fox fan comic project where I'm going to basically try to adapt the Star Fox series into a comic format and basically start before the events of the Lylat War and show how the team comes together and become the heroes they are in the game. And basically, if the comic proves to be popular enough, I hope to progress all along the Star Fox timeline and adapt each of the games in turn. I am currently trying to recruit both writers and artists for this project. It's all volunteer, but I'm really excited about it. I already have a small team. We've already scripted 12 issues so far, and we're currently having the first couple ones illustrated. But I can certainly use more people because more hands on deck, the more the work can be spread around, the faster we can run. And I hope to. One of my hopes for this fan project of mine is kind of serve as both a showcase for people's talent and also serve as a kind of a training for people to kind of build up their skills. And you don't even have to be a fan of Star Fox to be involved with this project. I've already kind of created my own little lore Bible to serve as our comic canon. And I'm very flexible with people's time and abilities. And I'm more than happy to educate people on anything that they need if they have questions regarding about the franchise and setting. I do not have a website at this time for the comic project, and the only Discord server I have is a private one for me and my team. But you can find me on Discord. I'm going to be under the name Sunnyside, and you can get in touch with me, or you can get in contact with one of my other socials elsewhere.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. And I hope that people come and contribute and check out your fan project because it sounds like it's going to be awesome. I think I'm going to read the issues when they come out because I'm not like a Star Fox super fan, but I'm wildly interested in checking that out. That actually sounds cool.
I always felt like that Star Fox always had great potential to be a comic book series, something akin to like the Archie or IDW Sonic comics. But unfortunately, there just never really has been one, aside from a few like comic strips that were done in like Nintendo Power and elsewhere. But yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it would be a great comic. I think it would be really fun. So I'm going to announce the game for next week. Don't say it. Do you know what it is? Don't say it out loud if you do.
No, I don't.
Okay. So I'm going to give you a riddle, and if you know the answer, just give it like 5 seconds so the audience can kind of guess it too. Here's the riddle. Okay. I've got a diamond-plated secret bound in blue, where a lone hunter's legacy gets power-ups anew. Armor forged from a rock, a dash that's built to fly. Guess I'll be chasing next week. Give it a try. And if you know what it is, just give it like 5 seconds, 10 seconds. If you don't, then just let me know.
Mega Man X.
Yep. Hey, that was pretty good. That was a pretty good guess. Wow. Yep, Mega Man X. That will be the game for next week for everybody who's listening. I'll be covering Mega Man X. I'll be streaming on Twitch. It'll be twitch.tv/Lanceroy. Or if you prefer YouTube, it'll be youtube.com/Lanceroy Games. And I'll be streaming it. And then I'll obviously do another podcast episode. So stay tuned if you guys like Mega Man. I love Mega Man. Mega Man X was one of the first games that on the Super Nintendo that I ever played. So this is going to be great. Yeah, and thanks again, SummerSetBanjo. I'd like to have you back on for either another Star Fox episode, or maybe I can look into doing that deep dive, and maybe you can just like hammer in all this lore for people. So
certainly. I know I kind of got a little bit into regarding that stuff. I really enjoyed being on this podcast, and I'd definitely be happy to return as a guest for maybe Dinosaur Planet or Star Fox Adventures, or pretty much any other Star Fox game for that matter. Also, if you do want some other guests for those particular episodes, I do know several people I can definitely recommend to you after the show. If you want one.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, shoot
Um,
them over.
yeah, and I had a blast. And if there's other games that you'd like to have me on as a guest, I'd definitely be happy to do so. I have a rather extensive library of old games, and I'm definitely a fan of quite a few franchises.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad I found you. You're in the right place then, because I'll be visiting a lot. All right, thanks, man. Well, folks, that's game over for this episode of Retro Reloaded. Thanks for joining me on this retro adventure. If you loved today's trip down memory lane, then consider helping me keep the nostalgia alive by supporting me on Patreon at patreon.com/retro reloaded. You'll get early episodes, bonus content, and a chance to pick the next game that we reload. Feel free to let me know your thoughts about the podcast, and until next time, keep those controllers charged.